All right, everybody, welcome to Unscripted One-on-One and another great guest tonight. Pretty excited about this. I'm gonna let him go ahead and introduce himself, and then I'll tell a little backstory about how we got to tonight right away. And so go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Aaron. My name's Nate Eckhart. I am one of the pastors at Rock City Church, but also a friend, I think, to the whole Conrad family, but probably more you. And I actually had the honor and privilege of going on a mission trip with Heather one year too, which actually it was probably, oh gosh, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So every October, I always think about those, amazing Honduras mission trips. But yeah, delighted to be here. Love what I get to do with Rock City and just love my life. I have a 5-year-old son as well, so he is a huge part of my life as well. And yeah, I'm just very glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. And just a little quick story on the Honduras trip. My wife, as many know, is a runner, and my biggest concern was she would go out to Honduras and just start running running the hills or just get out running. And I told Nate, man, you got to have eyes on Heather because I don't want her out running, and you got to. So I think you guys came up with some different unique workouts, like on the roof with bricks, or just actually working all day was probably a workout itself. But yeah, you took good care and made sure that she wasn't out running and trying a Honduras half marathon or something.
That's right. Yeah. Well, I can distinctly remember she did run, but she just ran around in a circle. So
Right.
that worked out well for her. And yes, there was bricks too. So yes, I would say she probably definitely got a workout in, probably something she wasn't, used to exactly. But yes, she would just run around the mission house. And I think that did just fine. So
Well, she came home safe. And so I knew she was in good hands. So,
sure.
All right, let's start at the beginning, because I do want to spend the bulk of the time, talking about Honduras and missions and really your heart, because that's, I do this all the time, and everybody listening is like, oh, here he goes again. So on Sunday, we're watching Rock City from home because, everybody's still in the pandemic and they're on ABC6. And so we're logged in as normal. And, you popped up on there, and right away I was like, I got to call Nate. Nate's got to get on here. Like, people need to know Nate. Like, they got to know this guy is not, when I say not normal, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, this guy's heart is huge. And you're all going to hear that as we go along. And if you're watching, you'll see it as well. But, okay, so let's start at the very beginning.
Sure.
Your original career was not this. So let's start there. And then tell me how you transitioned. And I know this, but I'd like our audience to hear how you find yourself pulled in another direction. Just you tell your story. I'll just get out of the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean, and we obviously have a history in that, and you're a part of that story. But yeah, I went to school at Capital University, and I graduated with a degree in health and fitness management. And so I wasn't really one of those big gym rats, I guess, necessarily, so to speak. Like, I didn't love the gym. Like, I know some people really do. I just kind of like to being around people and kind of help them get from kind of here to there, just helping them along the way with their goals and really fitness and health. And I did like to work out. I mean, I grew up, like a lot of kids, playing sports and stuff like that. And that I felt like that kind of ended in high school, but I still like to work out and be active and everything. And so health and fitness was just what I chose. And after college, I was working probably 2 to 3 jobs, making maybe minimum wage plus a couple extra bucks an hour. And then I ended up landing a job at Grant Hospital. And it was both a cardiac rehab gym, but also just a community gym, so to speak. And so I would train clients there and do group exercise classes. Like I did spinning, which was one of probably my favorite ones. And, just getting to know more about Rock City in 2011, I had heard about this church that had launched in a movie theater. And I actually was coming from a church that started in a movie theater too. So that was actually somewhat familiar, but it was kind of, I guess, untraditional, if that's what you want to call it at that time. But one of the first Sundays I came, I felt very welcome, obviously, but at the end, I think it was either the first or second Sunday, I remember there was a video and just talk about building a house for a family in Honduras. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. This church that's only a couple months old at this point is already making a difference in another country.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the next Sunday or maybe the Sunday after that, decided to go back, and they were talking about giving backpacks away to kids in the Wineland Park area. And I thought, wow, that's just incredible. That's the church in action, right? That's people who want to serve and want to give and spend their time, like I call it showing the gospel, showing the gospel to their community. And gosh, I just thought I want to be a part of that, and I was in an interesting phase, which I'm sure some people have been in before, where I know it's kind of typically called like church shopping.
Mm-hmm.
But you're checking some places out, maybe a friend invited you one place, maybe you looked on Google and you found this other place, maybe there's a church in your neighborhood. And that's kind of the phase I was in. And I was attending, multiple churches, and I loved them all, to be honest with you. I know some people don't like that phase, but it was short for me, and I enjoyed it. And I thought, like, wow, there's some great churches in Columbus here that are doing some amazing things for the Lord. I just felt like my call was to Rock City, and I'm so grateful to God and grateful to our leaders and pastors there that I'd had this opportunity. But really, long story short, in 2011 and 2012, I tried to just get as involved as I possibly could, and outreach was that thing. And I wanted to get involved both locally, just like in the beginning, like both locally, but also globally. So I took a mission trip in 2012 to Honduras. That was my first mission trip. At that point, I had been on a trip to South Africa in 2009, and I would kind of consider it like a serving trip. And that trip absolutely changed my life. In 2009, it was with Tom's Shoes and Element Skateboards. So we gave away about 2,500 pairs of shoes and about 100 skateboards to children in need. And it just brought some like major perspective into my life. I loved just being with people who were like-minded and cared about serving and giving to other people, and would spend their time going to another country to serve others. Yeah. And I think in 2012, I experienced that same thing. I felt connection with people from the church, and we had actually partnered with Cedar Creek. So you had these people who had been on this trip probably 7 or 8 times. So they had built these relationships with people, and they knew the pastors of the church, and it was a community feel, even though it was in a different country, and even though the languages and the cultures were different. So I just loved every part of it. And I just thought, I just want to do more of this. I want to do more of serving, both in my own city where I'm planted, but also in other countries too. And so really, I think it was in maybe March of 2013, I was invited on a vision trip, which is a little bit different than a mission trip, but the goal of this trip was to establish a new partnership. So we went to Guatemala, El Salvador, and Honduras in the matter of 3 days. So it was a lot of time in the car and in a bus, and really got to see a lot more of Central America. And really, when we landed in San Salvador, we saw basically a construction site. This church had told us they really had a heart for this area. And it was on the side of like a dormant volcano. They had already been doing some ministry up there. They had been impacting kids, found families who were, on the brink of basically starvation, and kids that were left home all day to fend for themselves. And education was tough to come by. Medical care was tough to come by. Clean water did not even exist in that area. And I was so inspired by Pastor Chad. I mean, he just said yes. He just said, yep, we're doing this. Like, we are just doing this. And I was just blown away. I'm like, how can you just say and commit that amount of money and just do that?
Yeah.
Like, that is either it's complete stupidity or it's a radical faith. And I was so inspired by his yes in that moment, because his yes, it changed my life just witnessing that. But just so many short-term mission teams that we've taken to San Salvador, and all the children that have been sponsored through that center and that ministry. And we started supporting a doctor and a medical clinic full time. And I've heard at least just a handful of the stories of the people that have come through there. They have a dental clinic now. They're reaching hundreds and hundreds of people in that community. And I believe that it looks different because of that first yes from the local leadership there, but also all the yeses that came along the way, Pastor Chad included, myself, so many other great churches here in the States who take mission trips there as well. And it was just beautiful to see. And again, in 2013, I wanted to do more. I was like, I just need to get more involved. And, I think really I'd started some conversations with our pastors about, how can I get more involved? And they began to ask me to do some more things behind the scene and to lead some things. I co-led a mission trip to San Salvador that very same year. And then in 2014 is when I was asked to join the staff of Rock City. But I do want to take and go back to a story with you, Aaron, because I believe, and I might be wrong about this, but I believe it was I think it was in 2012 or 2013. I can't remember when that was, but it was definitely in the fall time. And I had always played in a band. I was into kind of the rock and roll lifestyle, definitely in college and in my mid 20s. That was really important to me. Like, my identity was wannabe rock star, if I'm just being honest. I wasn't a rock star, but I was just a wannabe.
Yeah.
So after I became a Christian, I really wanted to still play, but I kind of had a different perspective. It was less about going out and partying. It was more about just playing music and have a good time. And
yeah.
So the band I was with, probably in 2009, 2010, 2011, something like that. Like, it was kind of just starting to fall apart a little bit. I mean, we had played some really good shows and had a really good time, and all those guys were good dudes, and we're friends, but I was kind of at this little bit of crossroads, I guess. And I always had known music. I always liked playing, staying up till 2 or 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. That was not anything brand new to me. I'd been doing that since I was 18. But I just was feeling kind of in the middle. And I don't know if anybody listening, you've been in that place, right? You're kind of, maybe you've got this group of friends over here and a group of friends over here, and you're kind of right here. Or you've got this passion over here, but you've got this job that's holding you down, and you're just like, I want to do more of this, but I really got to do that. So I was kind of in that middle kind of crossroads. I need to come to a decision. And I think you really helped me during that time to really press into the Lord and in a sense to just make a decision of what to do. And I remember your advice was so valuable because you didn't tell me what to do. You didn't tell me do this or else, or do that or else. It was just, I think you shared some more about your life and you and Heather and just how you guys, made decisions, whether they were from small, medium, big, or extra large. And I just kind of decided, I was like, I think I'm just going to quit and I'm just going to walk away from the band life altogether. And that's what I did. I walked away. And that was so much of what I had kind of known to that point. It was way less of my identity, but it was more of what I knew. But I decided I'm just going to quit. And I sold almost everything, or I gave almost everything away to the church. And it was kind of the weirdest thing happened after that. I had always had this kind of, I guess, hobby and passion to play guitar and do music. And that just completely it just went away. Wow. I had no desire to play really anymore. I wasn't craving having the coolest guitar or the coolest amp. It was not an interest at all. It was so strange, and I don't believe that it was a sin, or it's a sin to play in a band, or it's something wrong to do that by any means. So please don't hear me in that kind of light if you're listening today. It just, for some reason, I think once I got into serving and missions, that part of my life, I think it was just over, and it just ended. And so I got rid of almost everything, or sold everything, or gave everything away. And I kept a couple guitars, maybe a chord or two, and then I ended up getting rid of that. And then I had this one pretty nice electric guitar that I really liked, and it was special. And And I think it was last year. Yeah, it was last summer of 2019. I actually went to Honduras, and there's a guy I know there that's played in the band for a long time. His name's Jose Carlos. And as I was looking at that guitar and had been sitting under my bed, I thought, you know what? This is doing nobody any good by just sitting there. It's collecting dust, basically, and this should be meant to bless somebody and bless others. So I took it to Honduras, and I asked Jose Carlos to come out to the mission house one night just to hang out.
Yeah.
And I surprised him, and I told him, I said, hey, just close your eyes and put your hands out. Just put them out just like this. And he's like, oh boy, what's going on here? And I just put the guitar right in his hands, and he was just blown away.
It's awesome.
And he, as far as I know, he still plays that guitar to this very day. I mean, you would trust me, he had that thing restrung, rewired, like fixed up real nice, looking as good as it could ever look. By that Saturday, he was playing it in church and just loving it as well. But yeah, that's just, I think, a little bit about my story. I'm really passionate about just serving the Lord, and I love global mission trips. I love serving here locally. I would say yes, I do have a job, and I work for, Rock City, but it's more of a passion and a calling and anointing, and it's nothing, by all means, nothing that I deserve at all. Like I literally have to pinch myself most days, the fact that I get to do what I get to do. And I still feel like that I just can't believe some days I'm driving to our office. Like, me? Like what? I mean, me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Yes. Yeah. So I couldn't be more excited for the future.
Man, so to give everybody an idea, the first time I think I met, well, not the first time we met, we just hit it off. And I think we were like a Connect meeting or something, and over tacos, I think was what they had that night or something. I remember the food. I don't know why, but no, we met there and just connected. And I remember initially in those early days, one of the things that happened was, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, was it 614 magazine that you had a full page? Was it, what was it?
Yeah, it was either 614 Columbus Alive. I can't remember exactly. One of those.
Full page ad, not even an ad, but it was, I think it was even an article on you, right? But this full page picture, and in the picture, Nate's got Tom's on his feet, and you're gonna have to tell me everything you had on, because maybe an Element hat. Basically, everything he was wearing was those kind of companies that, and you'll have to probably even correct me here, the kind of companies that give back. And I'm sure there's a name for that. Is there a name for that?
I think that's pretty accurate. Yeah, they're a for-profit business, but their products give back to others. Yeah.
Yeah, and so Tom's is a very popular one, and but you're like dressed head to toe, and I think even like your keychain and your necklace or something, everything that you had on pretty much was one of those type of companies, and that is Nate. If you just heard that, everything he just said, if you're watching this, if you've never met him, that is Nate, and he wasn't doing it for a photo op. That is who you are. And people probably just heard that. I probably didn't even have to tell them that story, but that's who you are. And that's, man, I just love you to death, because Nate, it's not normal. It's not normal. And we're surrounded every day, especially now in this world that we're in. It is very scriptural that people will be lovers of themselves and money and not want to go to Honduras and give a guy a guitar. I mean, like that's not normal, but it should be. And that's what I love, is you get up every morning thinking that it is like, this is how we should live. And because of that passion, that's what drives you and drives anyone around you. It's contagious, like anybody listening to this, I guarantee you is going to be like, man, that I've never thought of that. And so the next question I had for you, because you mentioned it as you were talking, when you're talking about giving up everything you owned, do you think it was influenced by going to somewhere like Honduras and seeing that those people there live, without those things and are completely happy? Was that driven by the places that you've been and the people that you've met?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I would say it's been driven by that, and then just driven by scripture too. And I'll share another story, because I love stories. I love your stories. I love just hearing people's stories, and I love telling stories. But probably I want to say it was like 2013, I was like, I don't know if, again, anybody watching, or maybe you, Aaron, can relate to this. It's like you kind of clean, you got to clean and organize. It's like, all right, it's time to get rid of some stuff. Like I've been wearing this shirt for 12 years and it's probably, I know North Carolina stuff you do not get rid of ever, right?
Ever. It just falls off eventually.
Yeah. But I was just going through, I think, some clothes. It wasn't a big deal. I was just getting rid of some things, and I had been spending more and more time with people on the streets, experiencing homelessness, specifically in the short north and the downtown areas of Columbus. There still is that population today. I think it was probably even more back in that day. And I was spending more time with them, like seeing like, wow, every possession they have is on their in their backpack, or it's at some little tiny campsite.
Yeah.
How in the world are they living like that? And then combine that with having spent like, a couple trips at that point in Honduras. And I thought, wow, I need to bless some people with these clothes, and the pile on the floor was getting a little bit taller and a little bit wider and a little bit taller and a little bit wider. And I had that moment where I was just thinking like, wait a minute, these are mine. These are my clothes. And then like instantly like that, I felt that conviction, like you don't own any of this.
Yeah.
I mean, none of it
right.
is yours, and that's what I kind of sensed in my spirit, is like, this actually, the place you live isn't even yours. Your car is not yours. Your clothes, like none of it's yours. All you get to do is just manage it and steward it. And when I got that, I don't know if you want to call it a download or just a conviction of the Holy Spirit, or that light bulb type of moment, it just made, it didn't just make things easier. It made sense. It made sense to me of like, this is why I have what I have. It's to bless others. This is why I've got some money in my bank. It's to bless others. This is why there's food in the cabinets. It's to bless others. This is why I have a car, to somehow bless others. And then I think you combined just seeing some people like that here in the States, and specifically for me in Columbus, and then you go to other countries, and I think it doesn't take too long. It hits you like right in the face, and you see a 10 by 10 house, if you even want to call it that. We probably wouldn't even call it that. I mean, just to describe for you without showing a picture, I mean, some of the houses that are in other parts of the world, and specifically Central America, Honduras, El Salvador, I mean, we probably wouldn't even put our car in these structures. Like we probably wouldn't even put our tools in these structures. Think about a dirt floor. What happens every time it rains? What happens when you combine dirt and water? It turns into mud, and then it turns into puddles. And just like not having access to clean drinking water, not having a washing machine, not having a sink, not having a toilet, a shower, a faucet. I mean, the list goes on and on when you really look at the things that we use water for, and don't even think about it. I still do it to this very day. I have to check myself as much as anybody else does, like just the gratitude factor. But to really come to that realization of there are people living, I mean, just, it's hard to know how they survive every day.
Right.
And so when I need a perspective check, I need an outlook check, I need a gratitude check, I really start to think about people living in other countries. Yes. I also think about how people are living here. And then I combined all of that with the Word of God, and just think that, I need to have an eternal perspective, focus on, I was just preaching a message about this yesterday at a prison, like focus on the unseen, not the seen, fix our eyes and our minds and our hearts, not on the earthly things, but on the unseen, on the heavenly things, and man, it doesn't take long when you start switching your perspective like that. Your complaining starts to go away. Your griping starts to go away. You're huffing, you're puffing because your internet doesn't work. That starts to slip away.
Right.
Not having the really nice $2.99 bottle of water that you're used to. You don't even think about that. You just think, wow, I can actually go to a faucet.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's the bathroom faucet. I don't care if it has a Brita filter. I don't care if it's a kitchen. I can actually go to a faucet, take a nice glass out of my cupboard, and I can fill that cup up with water.
Right.
And I can have something to drink that's not going to make me sick. And then I can have a nice glass of water. And then it's just gratitude just starts spilling out.
Right.
Just like that's when the floodgates of gratitude just start coming. And you just look at everything. Again, this is all fresh. I was just preaching on this very thing. You just start looking at everything and everyone as a gift. And then your only response is just, thank you, Jesus, because I don't deserve any of this, but for whatever reason, I don't think I'll ever understand. You give it to me and you give it freely. So that way I can give it freely to others as well.
Yeah. That's awesome. You could just go. You could just go. I'll leave. Just keep going. Keep going. No, keep preaching. No. So I remember another Nate story. We were doing Laundry Love. You remember this one?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We were doing Laundry Love. Not so great neighborhood in Columbus. And you had connected with, and I know you're probably gonna even remember her name. Do you remember her name off the top of your head?
I don't right now, but I can see your face.
I can too, and that's I can't forget the moment, but I don't remember the name off the top of my head. But I feel like I know it. But anyway, so Austin was younger, much younger, and so this is one of those moments you look at it, you're like, that could have been a really bad move on my part. But we're doing Laundry Love. We're just like a block away from a situation that Nate knew about, and they were living in a cardboard box, right? I mean, she was living in a cardboard box, bad situation. And you had just such a burden for her. And I really wish I remember her name now, because it's right at the top of my mind. But you had such a burden for her, and you came over and you said, let's go pray. And so, and I don't remember if you said bring Austin, or if I said, I'm going to bring Austin with me. But either way, we take this child into a situation that could have gone really bad. I mean, it was a rough situation. I don't know if you remember that, but now when I look back at it, I'm like, that was not one of my better moves. But at the same time, it was an incredible teaching moment, because you go over there. I think we found her, and then you ended up praying over her with Austin there. And you talk about planting a seed at a young age. I mean, because especially for a young child to be taken into a situation like that was so out of our suburban life, and to see it right in front of you. And so I do believe we had the hand of protection on us that day when we walked around. But, again, that was just another one of those Nate moments. Was that it was powerful, and we go over and we prayed for her, and then, and I don't know where she is today, but I know that at that moment, you took the time to care for someone that's right here. So it's not just in Honduras either. It's right here in Columbus. One of the questions I was going to ask you, I know on Sunday you talked about sponsoring a child.
Yes.
I have to think with COVID, you probably can't travel now, right? Can you still do trips or no?
No. So that's, this is really the first time since 2012 I haven't had a trip planned. So actually countries are just starting to kind of open back up, which is really exciting. And it gives really some hope, to go for the future. And we're going to start some mission trips in 2021 and get some dates on the calendar. So that's really exciting as well. To support our partners in that. And obviously we'd be only going if our partners say yes, we're ready for you to come, even 4, 5, 6 months in advance. We wouldn't even think about scheduling dates if our partners were not ready in that aspect. But that's been probably my biggest challenge, and really it's, praise God, I mean, it's not really a challenge, but I'm so used to always having another trip on this schedule and just ready to go. And, so not having that's been a little bit hard. I mean, I was supposed to go to Jordan this July. I would have been in San Salvador in early October as well of this year, and probably would have squeezed in another trip. But fortunately, I did get to go to El Salvador this past March, so March of 2020. So this was literally as things were starting with the pandemic. And so it was kind of interesting, like being in another country and kind of experiencing the first little bit of all of that as well. I mean, when I was gone, that's when Ohio State closed down. So hearing that from kind of afar, like it was interesting to hear that kind of news. And
Yeah.
I think like 2 days, maybe. Yeah, I think it was about 2 days before we left, they had canceled the Arnold Sports Festival to, visitors or to guests and stuff like that. So, it didn't really hit as hard, because nobody really knew, what that was. But just being in El Salvador during the kind of beginning and middle of March was just interesting, because obviously we're hearing from people here in the States, but you're also so consumed with serving and evangelizing. And we had a medical team in El Salvador that saw, I think, nearly 600 people in the matter of 4.5 days. So we're talking about that. We're getting to know each other. We're, all just, loving our lives. And it was 90 degrees, in March. So we're loving that too. It was fantastic. Just a perk of taking mission trips, but not the reason to go, but it sure is a benefit. So, I mean, we didn't really think a whole lot about, what was happening here, so to speak, but we ended up having to come back about a day and a half early, which was fine. And I'm very grateful that we were able to get back into the country with no problems at all. So yeah, but it's been tough to not travel, but soon enough, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I brought that up, because I think one way that people could still help would be sponsoring a child, right? Is that, Can they do that through Rock City? Because I know you mentioned it on Sunday. Can they do that through Rock City, or is there another avenue that you would point them to for now? Because I don't know if that was a limited time that you guys were doing that, or can you just tell us a little bit about the sponsoring a child and where they could do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can still do it on Rock City's website, and it would just be /child sponsor. It's not for a limited time. It's a need that is there all the time. And one of the surprising things during the pandemic is that, you don't know where people are financially. And, I know a lot of people are sponsoring children out there, whether it's through Rock City or through World Vision or through Compassion. I mean, there's so many amazing organizations doing the work of the Lord all around the world. But the numbers really in Central America, at least through our partners, had not really changed that much. They had not gone down. So praise the Lord for that. And that's right. One of the reasons why we put a lot of focus this year on Uganda and Jordan as well. So yeah, there's still plenty of opportunity to make a difference in the life of a child. And the sponsorship dollars go towards education. They go towards meals. And of course, like the biggest staple in all of this is spiritual care, whether it's sharing the gospel or teaching Bible lessons or just developing relationships as well. So in Jordan specifically, like the educational piece is so huge, because to get into a private Christian school obviously costs a little bit more money, just like it would here, but it's not that much more there. So families even that aren't Christian want their kids to be in a Christian school just because the level of education. But think about that. It gives them the opportunity to hear about Christianity. So a lot of the sponsorship dollars are spent on education. Not all, but a lot are. And then in Uganda, it's more like a development center, like an after-school program. So kids will come and receive help with their homework. And like I said, of course, spiritual care and meals and even some medical care as well. And then they receive just skill training as well, like skill building, excuse me. And one of the coolest stories, I shared this a little bit in the video prior to, but one of the places that the team and I went in Uganda, like we got to see these kind of younger men, I would say they're probably like either teenagers or in their 20s, but they were taking metal that they just scrap metal, and they were melting it down and making pots to sell. But they had learned that trade at this what they call a care point. And that's what our partners want to do. They want to teach people skills that are going to better their future, better their families, change the trajectory of their lives, as well.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you another really impactful story from that trip was, I don't know if some of you that are listening, if you remember Joseph Kony and that name, and there was a huge campaign out kind of against him, so to speak, and against I think it was the LRA. I don't even remember when that was. Do you remember when that was? Like maybe mid 2000?
2009, yeah, somewhere in there. I don't remember.
Yeah, but one of the communities we went to, they had talked about how, I don't know if it was him, but some of his soldiers or his army had come through and had literally dragged people out and killed them right in front of kids.
Yeah.
And so that's just the reality. So you put that with just lack of jobs, you put that with lack of access to clean drinking water, lack of education. There's a big need, but I think it's a big need, but it's even a bigger opportunity to take the love and hope of Jesus Christ into that place. And the interesting part about that place in Uganda, it's so far off the beaten path, and this is what really attracted us, that the locals, it's nicknamed the ends of the earth. That's what they nickname it. So when I heard that, I instantly thought, I want to hear more about this place.
Yeah.
And it ultimately led us to taking that trip there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I have one random story, and then I have, because I have appreciated your time so much.
Absolutely.
And so I want to get all the links. So let me tell my random story, Nate's story, another one. And then I want you to give us all the links. And then I have kind of a charge that I want to give you.
Sure.
That honestly, I just have it's been on my mind the whole time you've been talking. So, all right, first thing is my Nate story. So completely unrelated to everything we've talked about.
Good.
Went to see Zach Brown Band in then Crew Stadium, not the new one. I don't even know the new one's open yet, but the old one. Watching Zach Brown Band, and I get a text from Nate, and he's like, "Hey man, that guy sounds pretty good." And I don't know if you even remember this, but we started texting back and forth. Your apartment was within a stone's throw of the Crew Stadium, right? I think.
About a mile away, I think.
I think you had like a rooftop flat or something, I think. And so you were basically listening to the concert, probably even had better listening because you weren't right up by the speakers like we were. But at one point, just because I didn't know if you were serious or not, and at one point, I think he came out and he was like, "Yeah, here's a new song off our brand new album." And he started singing, and you're like, "Man, that new song off that brand new album sounds pretty good." I'm like, he really is listening to this.
Yeah.
So anyway, random Nate story, but I always remember this. So I swear, whenever I hear Zach Brown Band, I think of being at the concert and Nate, live texting this concert.
That's right. That's probably the only country concert I've ever been to. Man. Never been a huge fan. Much respect to it, though. Much respect, and much respect if you like country music. It's just not my cup of tea, but it's all good.
And I knew that, and that's what was so special about it. Is you're like, "Wow, that new song's not too bad." I'm like, okay. So anyway, all right. Give me all the links, your email, your whatever you want to give us. Anybody listening to this, I will take it and also put it in the blog post so people can find it. Rock City sponsoring a child, a way to contact you if they have questions about missions or anything, because I know we didn't even get a chance to touch on prison ministry. So talk about all the links and where people can find information on all of that stuff, and I'll get it all in the blog post.
Yeah, for sure. Well, Rock City's website is just rockcitychurch.tv, and TV is like television. So, and then if you'd want to sponsor a child, you could just go through our website, which would be just rockcitychurch.tv and be /child sponsor. So you could go to that website and see the different links to sponsor a child in Uganda and sponsor a child in Jordan as well. And then my email address is Nate Eckhart at rockcitychurch.tv. So it's just all one word. So yeah, I mean, if you ever want to connect and just to talk more about mission trips or serving or outreach or again, like prison type of stuff, that's been a whole new world that I've kind of been in only just for the past couple years, to be honest with you. So I'm still a rookie in that as far as that goes. But yeah, those would probably be the links that I want to give. Of course, like I have an Instagram and a Facebook. I kind of look at and check it probably once or twice a day, but I'm not super active on there. I don't have a Twitter. I deleted that a couple years ago. Sorry, Aaron. I know you're big on that. But yeah, just Instagram and Facebook. You'll find probably a bunch more pictures on my Facebook, but just my travels and my experiences. I'm not a big poster, but I am on there as well.
Well, I will get all that stuff put on the thing. And I encourage anybody, and you mentioned it, if somebody's stuck in that middle, or they're stuck right now, I think everybody's dealing with so much.
Sure.
Obviously there's COVID itself, but I think there's so many invisible effects of COVID on all of us right now, on mental health especially. And so if you all need to just reach out to a guy that you just reach out to Nate, and I guarantee he's going to change your perspective. He's going to change your filter pretty quick on, even hopefully listening to this has, because we're all caught up in it, man. And we're frustrated, and we're, and that's hopefully, that's what these podcasts are for too, is just to put something less negative into the world. So I encourage you to reach out to him. Now, the last thing I want to do is charge you with something. And while you were talking, I thought of it. There's a book by Max Lucado called When Christ Comes. And it's all about, when we go to heaven. And as cheesy as that might sound to some people or whatever, it's what we believe, right? So, but there's a chapter in there about when we actually walk into heaven. And there's 2 pages, and I can't read it without just losing it every time, because it talks about, your family and your mom and dad, and, and they're hugging you, and it's incredible. And it's this picture is painted for you of what it's like. And of course, and you've always heard you've heard this cliche story, but I truly believe this of you, man. You're going to turn around after all those other welcomes, and there's going to be a sea of people, and their faces are not going to be what we see every day in Columbus. They're going to be from all those places that you've gone. And so my charge to you is don't ever stop doing what you're doing, because it's so easy to get caught up and to get, you've literally lived the gospel, and you don't have to sell everything to live the gospel. You don't have to do that. You can live it by your life, but you truly have embraced the very cultures that you're going into. You've embraced them, and you're just my guy, man. I'm really proud of you, and it's awesome just to see you just so on fire and alive, and telling stories that you're really in that sweet spot of exactly what God intended and made you for. So really proud of you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much. No, it's been a privilege and honor to be here. And I actually just came from my small group, and that's probably why I'm so amped up as well, because, I'm surrounded by 6 or 7 guys. And I mean, we talk, I wouldn't say all the time, but enough, like none of us, I mean, we're on the path to be doing what we're doing today. And I'm extremely fortunate to be with these guys that are, serving is all a priority in their life. They whether they're serving at Rock City or serving at the Dream Center or walking the streets, giving out food to the people that are living on the streets, or just being a good neighbor, or all of the above, or even any other organizations that probably are unnamed. But it's great to be surrounded every Thursday night by a group of guys that want to serve. They get high on life and high on everything. I mean, we're just talking, some of these guys we all have a past as well, but they are just on fire, and I love being with them every Thursday night. So that gets me amped up, to continue to do what I get to do, and just, again, I never take it for granted by any means, because I know that God could take this away from me at any point. And I don't know if you are listening to this and you would just say, I'm just a regular, ordinary type of person, but if you're passionate about something, like, God will use that passion for something great. And I firmly believe that your yes means more to him than your skills or your qualifications or your abilities or whatever it may be. But if you're willing to do something for God, and if you're willing to do something for somebody else, I mean, that's what it's all about. To me, that's living life to the absolute fullest. I mean, just coming from my band days, no crowd or no stage or no, I mean, it doesn't even, I can barely put those 2 things in comparison to getting the opportunity to serve, again, whether it's, here in or here in Columbus, or it's in other countries. Like, those 2 things don't even touch each other, so just, to me, I just jumped in and I just went for it. And I definitely have not even anywhere close to arriving by any means, but so maybe you're out there and you're like, what can I do? Jump into something,
Right.
Jump in and just start somewhere. That's what so many people, their stories, they just said, you know what, just let me go down to the Dream Center. Let me go to Faith Mission, or let me just hit the street. Let me just, I got to do something, start somewhere, do something. And God will take you to places that you never even thought you'd be able to go. And it's a great journey too.
And it may start with an email to you.
Yeah.
It's the best place to start, right? And so I hope your inbox is flooded with people that would assume that there's a lot of people listening to this. So that may be a big leap, but I don't know. Somebody may hear this, and
Absolutely.
and we'll shoot you an email or at least reach out to you. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your friendship. I'm proud of you. My family loves you, and we're just proud of you. We're proud to call you friend, and thank you for your time tonight.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
All right, brother. We'll see you real soon.
All right. Sounds good.
Talk to you. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome, bro.
Bye.